All right, college sports fans, let's go. We've got a much more exciting week here with tons of big ranked matchups, and I'm in a really good mood because my prediction record just keeps getting better and better. As I've said, I get better as the season goes on. So I started out, a little rough, but now I'm up to 500. I'm 11 and 11, so that's really good. I am a little bugged though because I really should be a little bit better than that. I should have even more wins because South Carolina should have beat LSU. They had it. I think LSU caught a lot of lucky breaks, and I think South Carolina made some mistakes, but also I think the refs got a little bit too in control there, and you know for South Carolina to lose that game, and their starting quarterback got injured too. Lenoris Sellers went down, so I think that was a big momentum changer there. Even though the backup Robbie Ashford is a solid backup, but it just wasn't the same. So I'm a little bugged. I should have a winning record right now, but unfortunately, I do not. However, we have several really huge games coming on. And before I get into this game between the Trojans and the Wolverines, I did just want to say there's still time to vote in my poll for the fan game of the week. Got multiple game options. Currently, the game between NC State and number 21 Clemson is leading, but you still have time to vote in that poll. Otherwise, that will most likely be the game I end up choosing for the fan game of the week. So I did just want to plug that real quick as well. But let's get into this game between USC and Michigan. I'm super excited for this one. I'm really excited about a lot of the games here this week. Obviously, there's three really massive matchups, and then there's just lots of really good games. The games that I have on my poll, all of those games are going to be really good. Even the three that I don't end up talking about. The Iron Skillet between TCU and SMU, I didn't include that one, but that's going to be really good. Arkansas and Auburn. That's going to be another good game. There's a lot of other solid, really good games this weekend, even ones that I'm not even going to have time to get to besides these huge games. Well, let's talk about number 11 USC, number 18 Michigan in the Big House. The Wolverines have already played one top tier team in Texas. USC is trying to prove that they are top tier as well. They're currently 5.5 point favorites. So again, the spread is really close, as it should be. Both these teams are really good, both in the top 20, and they both do a lot of things really well. What's fascinating, though, is this is the first Big Ten conference game for USC as a Big Ten conference member. And of course, it's against the reigning national champions on the road. So they say, you know what, we're just going to throw you right into it, and you're going to play one of the best teams in the league right away. But let's talk about USC for a second here. Uh, their offense has been way better than Michigan, and that's not really a surprise. Everybody kind of knew that heading into this season with the kinds of teams that Lincoln Riley has always had, either at Oklahoma or USC. It's always going to be up tempo, fast, high flying passing offenses. And Michigan's always been more of a ground and pound team, even in their national championship team last year with a quarterback like JJ McCarthy. It still was more of the typical rugged defense, elite defense, and just ground and pound with two elite running backs. But to get into the discrepancy here, once you see this, USC has been averaging 37 and a half points per game. Now, again, that's just through two games compared to Michigan's three, so I also have to keep that in mind. The Michigan has only been averaging 23.3 points per game in three games. So the offensive numbers are not even close between the Trojans and the Wolverines. And Miller Moss for USC has been very efficient, 73% completion percentage, and he's averaging just over 9 yards per pass. So again, it's not these little checkdowns. I always try to like to include that because completion percentage that can get misleading because you could be having an 85% completion percentage, but if you're only averaging 4 yards per pass. That's, kind of just tells the tale of, okay, you're just dumping it off. And so, of course, you're just getting little completions here and there. So I always like to include that other stat to kind of give more context to it. But the other interesting thing about Moss is he only has two touchdown passes through 2 games, which is really surprising to me when you look at the receiving core that USC has and the fact that he threw, what was it, 6 touchdowns in the Holiday Bowl against Louisville in his debut. And that was just from 1 game. So you'd think through 2 games, especially against a cupcake opponent like Utah State, he would have thrown for more touchdown passes. But really, what's been a surprise has been the star running back Woody Marks coming over from Mississippi State. Woody has been fantastic. I think he's honestly had the biggest impact on this offense overall so far. He's averaging just under 6 yards per carry, and he's got 3 rushing touchdowns this season, rapidly racking up the rushing yardage in just 2 games. So he's been fantastic. The defense, night and day between Alex Grinch, defense defensive coordinator, and D'Anton Lynn in his defense as a defensive coordinator. And Eric Gentry at linebacker has been a defensive superstar. Also, Mason Cobb at linebacker, really, really good. But Gentry has 14 tackles and a sack just in 2 games. So that's really, really fantastic. Let's talk about Michigan, though, the home team. A lot of controversy with them this season so far with their offense under Sharon Moore. It's just not looked very good. They didn't look all that great against Arkansas State, which is why even though they won 28-18, they ended up dropping from 17-18 in the polls, and Notre Dame moved up one because of their dominant performance over Purdue. The Red Wolves outpassed Michigan 222 to 134. That's not very good. So Davis Warren threw for only 134 passing yards and 3 interceptions. On the season, he only has 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions on the year. And as a result, the head coach was like, all right, that was just not very good. We're putting in Alex Orji. Alex Orji is the starter. This is the right decision. I think Orji should have been the starter all along because he's also very dynamic with his legs. He's big and strong, and to me, he opens up the playbook just a little bit more. And overall talent, I think he's just a bit better than Davis Warren. I never understood why he got the starting nod at first, and clearly his numbers are not very good. So definitely, I think Alex Orji going in is going to make things a lot better. He opens up a third option as somebody who could run the ball right next to Hillel Mullings, who's really taken over. The senior is taken over as the starting running back. Donovan Edwards was supposed to be the dominant, one of the best running backs in the country. That has not been the case. In fact, Mullings has really stepped in and been the better running back. He has 270 yards, averaging 7.5 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns. Edwards has 150 yards rushing with the rushing touchdown. He also has a short receiving touchdown as well. But clearly, Mullings has been the main running back. He's been really, really good. I don't think enough people in the country are talking about how good he is as a running back just because as a senior, he's just kind of emerged out of nowhere and taken over that starting spot from Edwards. And Colston Loveland, he's been a great receiver at tight end. He has 187 yards and a touchdown, but he's been making tons and tons of catches, just super reliable. But the rest of the receivers haven't really shown very much. But to be fair, they haven't really had that great of a quarterback throwing them the ball either. So it's kind of hard to judge. Now I'm going to get into the concern for each team. So both teams have weaknesses that will make this game very, very fascinating. And then we're going to get into a little bit of history between these two teams because these two teams, despite playing in two separate conferences, do have some fascinating history. But let's talk about the concern for USC. Their rush defense is still, even with those great linebackers I just talked about, still not the greatest. They allowed 4.5 yards per carry to LSU, and the Tigers were definitely well more known for their passing game and not so much their ground game. Now in that game, of course, they still had John Emery before he unfortunately went down with a season-ending injury. But they were giving up 4.5 yards per game to LSU. In Michigan, can run the ball a lot better than LSU can. So that's a bit of a concern that the Wolverines might be able to control the line of scrimmage there against the Trojans still. But here's the concern for Michigan. This USC defense is not the same. It's much better. They're coming off of a shutout. And yes, it's against Utah State, but still, USC getting a shutout against anybody after the kind of defense we've seen from the Trojans for the last 2 to 3 years is mind blowing. It's shocking, really. So this defense is way, way better. Michigan has not shown that they can pass the ball well. Alex Orji, in the brief moments that he's been in so far, has not proven that he can push the ball down the field. And this is just his first start since then. So to me, Michigan might still be way too reliant on the run. And USC does have those two elite linebackers who are capable of stopping the run. So that's my concern for Michigan. They'll be way too one dimensional. Now let's get into the history of the series. USC leads the all-time series 6-4. They've played each other 10 times before, and Michigan won the first three meetings, but it's mostly been USC that's been in control of the series since then. And they've played in 8 Rose Bowls, so 8 out of the 10 meetings were Rose Bowls, and USC won 6 of them. So the Trojans lead the all-time Rose Bowl series 6-2. And now, of course, they're playing in the same conference. The last time they played was 2007 in the 2007 Rose Bowl. And the first time they played was 1948 in the Rose Bowl, where Michigan won 49-0. But again, USC's won five out of the last 6 meetings, including the last 3 meetings in a row. So they've generally been in control of this series. So what do I think is going to happen in this game? Well, for the reasons I just said before, if Michigan's passing defense is giving up 222 yards to Timmy McClain of Arkansas State, I think USC, with all of their incredible weapons at wide receiver, plus a great quarterback who's been throwing the ball really accurately, like Miller Moss, I think he's going to carve up this Michigan secondary, even with the superstars they've got, like Will Johnson. I just haven't seen enough from the overall defense to justify stopping him, and I haven't seen enough, nowhere near enough from their offense to get anything going against USC's defense of all defenses. Now that it's gotten much, much better. I say USC wins this game, and I think they're going to win this game by 7. All right, guys. So I'm now even on my predictions. Hopefully, this week will continue to go in a positive trend. And keep in mind, vote in the poll to see which is going to be the fan game of the week. And stay tuned for the Bunley game of the week as well, which is going to be one of these other big ranked matchups we're going to talk about. Thank you guys so much for listening to the College Sports Superfan.